Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. The Off the Hook podcast at offthehooksports.com or Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or wherever you go for your favorite podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Off the Hook with Dave Hooker starts now.
What? Do what? Let the dogs out. You know, like, ooh, let the dogs out. Ooh, ooh.
Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. Always available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Always available wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Welcome to the program, as it is Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker, and we are loaded for bear, so go ahead and get on board. I encourage you to like and subscribe right now so you don't miss anything good, because on the show today, we have a gentleman that I'm very excited to talk to with a freezing cold takes. Fred Segal will join us. He's got a book coming out of all these Skip Baylesses of the world that like to say things and get attention just for saying things and saying things alone. And then also coming up, Chris Landry and I will talk for a moment about the impact that Heath Shuler had on the Vols and their recruiting efforts moving forward. And we'll talk a little bit of Tiger, the Down and Dirty at 30, because we start every program at 8:30 on weekdays. Amanda LaFratta, how are you, man?
I am doing well this morning. How are you, Dave?
Well, apologetic. You're nowhere close to ma'am stage. I'm past sir stage. So like the first time you get called sir or ma'am, you're like, oh. I remember being like 28 or maybe 30, and somebody got my tea, and they goes, here you are. So here's your change, sir. And I'm like, whoa. I don't know if you've gotten the ma'am yet, but I'm like,
I always do.
Do you always get it's part of being in the South.
Well, we're in the South, so that typically happens. I call like a 4-year-old ma'am if I'm talking to him.
I do too. But I used to always say, oh, don't call me sir, I'm just Dave. And now the 25-year-old guys at the gym look at the near 50-year-old Dave and they're like, no, I'm going to call you sir. I feel uncomfortable.
I feel uncomfortable without calling you sir, yes. I mean, I don't.
No,
you don't. You sir. But
no,
that's fine.
I don't think that's going to happen. All right, the Down and Dirty at 30. We got some Tiger talk, and also Jabari Small, I think, is going to just grab this position. I have a weird feeling that it's done, barring something unforeseen, that's going to happen. So I'll give you my take on the balls. And it's brought to you by our friends at Craft Treats, full spectrum CBD treats that contain minor cannabinoids that increase the benefits of CBD. They've got the bone and joint CBD treats, which I give my pet, but they're also great for anxiety. And you go to crafttreats.com, again, crafttreats.com, to learn more. All right, Amanda, the Down and Dirty at 30 and on offthehooksports.com. You can read more about it. Tennessee talked running backs yesterday, as they will practice today and then an off day. So they went 5 on, 1 day off, 5 on, 1 day off. And now they go 2 day, 1 day off, 2 day, 1 day off. So Jabari Small has gone from, they said he was barely 200, which means you're probably barely 190 last year. So he's 199 at best, pushing it. And now he's at the 212, 215 range. And that's a lot of steak. He said he did steak. He went bovine.
That's a big boy. That's a big boy.
Yeah, for a 5'11" frame, especially. And it was really funny, Amanda, the conversation that he had with the media yesterday. And it was when everything was literally raining down upon Tennessee's program. And it was the Ole Miss game. And he's sitting there in that Ole Miss game, and he's thinking, now this is before the mustard bottles and all this stuff. But he's thinking to himself, I'm tired. I'm tired. And he said to himself during that game in the second half, he said, I've got to do something to my body so that I'm not tired later in games and I'm more durable. And he's done that. 15 pounds.
What did he do?
ate a lot of steak, and I'm sure there were some protein drinks, but he did say steak was one of the main things, and he hit the gym harder. I mean, really, if you have a significant amount of muscle, biggest challenge for him is probably just eating. He's probably sick of eating.
Oh, what a shame.
That's terrible. Do you want
That's so bad. I do not feel his pain whatsoever.
to meet for lunch today?
Just have a cow. It'll be
Yeah,
fine.
'cause we
One
have
cow.
fried food and stuff. And, but yeah, so that's kind of where he is. All right, so I want to get to that momentarily. And Jabari Small, should Tennessee be encouraged or discouraged by what you heard yesterday in the running backs? Because Justin Williams-Thomas, I think we thought was just going to boom, take over the role. But now he has shown flashes, but not been the guy that people ultimately thought would be able to step in and be the starter from day one. I'm not surprised. They've got to worry about pass protection first. I think Justin Williams-Thomas is going to be fine. And then lastly, Jalen Wright with a quad injury might not be ready until the opener. That's scary to me, Amanda, when you have a guy that is not shown that he's ready in Justin Williams-Thomas, and then you have Jalen Wright that has a quad injury, and he's not going to see playing time until, or he's not going to see full contact until the first game. That's a little scary for me. That's a little thin at running back. If something were to happen to Jabari, then you're very, very concerned.
Well, don't they have Dylan Sampson too?
They have Dylan Sampson, very fast, and a guy that I think can have an impact as a speedster. I kind of wonder if he's Jabari Small of last year. Is he a guy that can handle the ball more than 12 times per game, 12, 15 times per game? That would surprise me. So,
well, I mean, I think that if you have Jabari Small and he's as big as they say he is, and you have Dylan Sampson backing him up, I think you're good. You're good. And if something happens to one of the two, then you bring in, DJT, the DWT. I don't know where I got that. JWT. Lord have mercy. I might be a little dyslexic.
Yeah, you're catching.
Just realized that.
You're catching it from me. Well, I think JWT is going to be the answer. But listen, you've got a Heisman candidate. I choose my words very carefully at quarterback. Heisman candidate. There are 100 Heisman candidates, okay? But you have a Heisman candidate as your quarterback. So if you can't pass protect, it ain't happening. It ain't going down. You're not going to be in the game.
Somebody's going down, but not in a good way.
Yeah, you don't want Hendon Hooker going down, because obviously there's questions about the backup quarterback situation, but you just have this chemistry right now already, Amanda, that you certainly wouldn't want to disrupt. Listen, Tennessee gave up a ton of sacks last year. Some of that was Hendon Hooker's fault. I would go ahead and tell you right now that I think there is a really good chance that Tennessee cuts that sacks given up in half. Now, I'm going to get into that more on offthehooksports.com, but part of that's Hooker getting the ball out quicker. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't ready last year. Part of that is the offensive line returning 4 or 5 starters, and I think they'll end up being better at the tackle positions where most of the pass rush comes. And part of that's Cooper Mays, who I know works with us on the website, and check out the Vol report with him. And I'm not just saying that because we work together. I think that he is a very smart young man that's going to get people in the right position. So speaking of being in position, Tiger Woods jumps in an airplane and goes and visits with the top golfers in the world. And boy, this PGA Live Tour thing, man, if you could just stop everything and be like Mark Schlabach of ESPN and write a book and just go around and cover it. Well, you'd have to have the sources, but would that not be fun? I mean, because I don't know what's going to happen. And now you have also, and I'm just going to set Amanda up for this. You just go where you want to with it. But You also had at the same time Patrick Reed, the latest member of the Live Golf Tour, to turn from the course to the courts as he has sued the PGA Golf Channel and commentator Brandel Chambly on Tuesday for defamation. May I please? Will somebody tell me what's so wrong with the PGA, Amanda? I mean, what have they done that's so wrong? That's the one thing I've missed in all this.
Well, from what I gather, it's, and I think it started with Phil Mickelson and how he, claims the PGA doesn't pay enough and how they're demanded, you have to play a certain amount of courses or a certain amount of tournaments or what have you. And if I'm not mistaken, the Live Golf or whatever, you actually play more. If I'm not mistaken, you actually play more. Or these people who are trying to get back into PGA tournaments or majors or what have you, they'll actually end up playing more because they said the PGA just demanded too much time.
Right.
To play golf. So they'll actually end up playing more if they get back into these tournaments and still do the Live Tour. So it doesn't make much sense from what they are saying as far as, it makes, the PGA makes you play all this. There's not, the money's not that great. I mean, Phil Mickelson had a jet.
Yeah. And it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this. And I think we can all agree that we root against the Live Tour. So that's pretty much where I am on the whole issue. I don't want to see them succeed. And I really think in the end, they've ended up hurting themselves. And I say them, I'm not talking about the golf tour per se. I'm talking about Saudi Arabia, and this sports washing is what it's called. I think in turn, they've actually brought more attention to themselves and their human rights and equities. I think it's done the exact opposite. They tried it with soccer. Now it worked with soccer. They were able to steal some players and they went to the Saudi Arabian League. So they've been successful at the sports washing before, but this is an abject failure. I mean, I know more about human rights violations than I did before I heard about the Live Tour.
I mean, it's astounding to me that they thought it was going to work, but B, what's astounding to me more than that are the players that have separated themselves from we love golf, this is the game that we love, to we're going to take this money from these people who are just god awful when it comes to human rights. That being said, the NBA does the same thing with China. So here we are.
This is an exciting day. Do you know why this is an exciting day, Amanda?
Well, I hope it's because the Live Tour ends today, but I'm not sure why.
I don't think it's that yet, but I think we will have that exciting day. It's exciting because you can start to pre-order Madden NFL 23. So you know what Trammell and Dave Hooker will be doing here in the very near future, like Friday night. Now, I don't know why you have to pre-order it because it's not like you stand in line anymore. You just download the thing. But for some reason, we pre-order it. I don't know if we get a discount. He just says it. He does it. But I'm excited. Did you ever get into, giddy excited. Did you ever get into, you're like a sports person. I mean, did you ever get into gambling, like everything else, never video games?
No, I'm just not I liked Super Mario. I love that. I could beat the crap out of that. The one back in the day, the original Mario, the red and black. Yeah. The things that were like this big and you stick them in, you have to blow them and then put them in so that they would work. I could kill that game.
Okay. What? No, they get dust on them. That's what it was.
Yes, it was dust. So you'd have to just
Okay, you're not old enough to remember the PlayStation, but it used to do the slow thing. No, not the PlayStation. What was before that? Nintendo.
That's the one I'm talking about. The Super Nintendo, the very first one.
Okay, did you do the one that you would be playing Legend of Zelda, and it would slow down. It would go doot 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 doot, and it would.
That's Super Mario. That's the Super Mario theme. But yes, I would do that, and you'd have to take it out, and you have to blow the dust out of it, and then stick it back in, or you have to make sure the console's like up and getting air through the console because it would just overheat. But I could kill that game. And Nintendo 64, that whole like jump, triple jump thing, killed it.
All right, we're going to get to today's tough question, and it's brought to you by our friends at Big Orange Phillies. Big Orange Phillies is where you need to be on Sunday. How about Princeton Fant? How about Latrell Bumpus, current Vols, former Vol, Jabari Davis will be there as well. And man, Big Orange Phillies is awesome. They're right there in the heart of Halls on Maynardville Pike. They're close to Maynardville and also close to North Knoxville, so it's very convenient, and they're family friendly. They've got it all. They've got darts, billiards, live entertainment, and karaoke. So check it out. That's Big Orange Phillies. All right, I'm curious where Amanda's going to go in today's tough question, but let's do that right now. Please subscribe and listen. Today's tough question is brought to you by Big Orange Phillies.
We do our research. Have you done your research?
We're working like heck.
Today's tough question. What's the real debate?
You sipping my Soupe Guadalupe?
Exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker and Amanda LaFratta.
You drinking my sake kimosabi?
Oh my God.
Amanda Chauvin, that means it is time for her to test our sports fandom and where our allegiances lie. And it's brought to you by Big Orange Phillies. All right, what do you got, Amanda? Today's
all right.
I wonder if you'll go live tour or you'll go maybe mad.
I'm not gonna go either one.
Okay.
Actually,
she's off script, kids.
I'm not off script.
Tough question. We leave it with Amanda. All right, so what we got?
So today's tough question is going to be surrounding something that we are going to discuss later, which is alcohol in college football stadiums.
Oh, by the way, I missed on that note. I'm sorry. Bryant-Denny will have alcohol in its stadium. So they're roughly about half the schools in the SEC based off the research that I did, and Alabama is one of the ones holding out. I've got a lot of opinions on that, but Amanda, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So, yes, and Bryant-Denny, for those of you who aren't familiar, because a lot of people aren't familiar with, the stadium names of where it belongs, but that's Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
They are now going to allow, it's pending one more approval, but I'm pretty sure it's going through. They will allow alcohol sales in Bryant-Denny Stadium. It's so far, I don't think it's turned out to be the best idea. I know it makes a lot of money, and on paper, financially, it makes sense. However, with emotions, the way that they are surrounding these big time rivalry games, and we've seen people get shot and die over rivalry games, and that's without the alcohol.
Every year in the Alabama-Auburn game, Google Auburn, Alabama shooting the day after the Iron Bowl, and there is always one. And you can even include family member in that.
Yeah, it's not a good look. I don't know why we would introduce alcohol into stadiums when you have thousands of kids, like students there, and a lot of them are going to be underage. And I know, trust me, I remember when I was a student at Tennessee, the mini Jack bottles, shoved them every which way I could in boots and everything else. Brought in, I think, 12 at one time. I'm not flexing. I'm just flexing a little.
You were flexing. I like it.
I was.
Amanda, I have some very strong feelings on this that I do want to get to in just a little bit, but I will be the first to say that I have been the ignoramus, the idiot that was 19 years old and was a student at Tennessee and thought, airplane bottles, I'm tougher than that. I'm just going to carry in 4/5 in a backpack. That didn't go very well. Fortunately, I handed it to my friend who instead got busted. And so he missed the 1997 Tennessee Florida game. I did see, no, it was the 1996, excuse me, the 1996 Tennessee Florida game. And I was able to see that game, and he was not. And it was really awkward because I was single at the time, and his girlfriend got in with me. So we just hung out, and Peyton Manning got blown out, and it was just a terrible day all around. But so I've been that guy, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Did you date his girlfriend?
No.
Okay, well then that's fine.
I'm like
As long
really,
as-
I'm brand loyal.
That's good.
Yeah,
That's really good.
very brand loyal. I friends are friends. That's
What is okay? So I have a question. What is the dumbest thing that you like? Do you have a story like the dumbest thing you've done like at a ball game or?
Oh, in like a professional or fandom sense?
No, fandom, like college. College. Do you want me to share mine first so you can think on it?
Yes. Sure.
Okay. So my first year at Tennessee, it was Alabama-Tennessee game. And I went to Alabama before I went to Tennessee. Graduated from Tennessee. But anyway, I had a lot of friends from Tuscaloosa that came up and stayed with me. Well, my cousin went to Tennessee as well, but she decided she was done with college, and I don't blame her because I would have done the same thing if I were smart. But she had her ID and she looked like one of my friends. So the student ID. So we went in through the student gate, and Brittany's ID wouldn't work because she had already dropped her classes. And so my friend just had it and it wouldn't work. So she just took off running into the stadium. And I just went with her because I was like, okay. But we actually got in, and we did not, nothing ended up happening to us. But the airplane bottles, if you're a girl, there are places you can hide those airplane bottles. You don't bring them in a backpack. That's dumb. Like, you put them in boots and you put them in your belt, because no one's patting down a girl to go into a game. Just saying.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Nobody's patting. Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
That does remind me of an interesting airport security check-in thing that happened to me earlier this year.
Did you try to sneak in airplane
I
bottles?
wasn't sneaking anything in, but they thought I was, so I got the full body frisk. And I'm saying full body frisk.
That is awkward. They tried to they wanted to rip the lining out of one of my purses because they thought there was something in there. And I was like, are you kidding me? What, I'm bringing in something in a lining?
No, I would have been upset had that happened to my son or daughter, but it was time to get on the plane and get back from California. So that's what I did. And they said, you can do it in a private place. You can do it right here. I was like, let's do this.
I'd do it right there. I'd be nope.
Did.
Oh, good. Okay. Don't do it in a private place.
I did. And it was as touchy, and I'm just going to leave it be right here. It was as touchy as you could possibly be. That's all I'm saying.
Did you feel violated?
I did a little.
Did you write a strongly worded email?
No, I did not.
Okay.
I was busy. Definitely felt naughty. All right. So today's tough question is.
So today's tough question, I think, is going to be.
Call my wife and apologize.
Yeah, apparently. My feelings on it are: is allowing alcohol in college football stadiums a good idea or no?
I love it. It's easy and clean. Good for it. We're going to hear from Chris Landry right now, coming up. Freezing cold takes. But Chris Landry on The impact that Heath Schuler had in recruiting. So I'm looking at this Nico impact and what he might have. And everybody wants to point to Peyton Manning. I think that's an easy way out. I've said before, I think it's Heath Schuler. Here is Chris Landry's thoughts on what Schuler, who he recruited, meant to Tennessee's evolution in the 1990s. And it's brought to you by Owl's Nest Barbecue. Owl's Nest Barbecue. Barbecue is not a food, it's a method. So get there for the wood chips, get there for the awesome rubs, the sauces, all of that at Owl's Nest Barbecue. Owl's Nest Barbecue right next to Steve Ray's Midnight Oil, Tire Direct and Lube, a proud Michelin distributor. That's where I take my car, taking my sons this weekend, and I'll be broadcasting with the one, the only Steve Ray on Saturday morning on his show. So I get to have some barbecue, which is good. So let's get to Chris Landry. Now, what impact did Heath Schuler have on Tennessee in the 90s?
Times to me, and as I think about it, you put the timeline in, it wasn't like, and I don't know if this is what you're trying to say, but it wasn't like he was the guy that just brought Tennessee to prominence, but it was kind of at a point in time where he was a big name guy. And I don't know that getting him led to other big name guys, or if it was just the point in time of which they were recruiting. They took their recruiting up to a different level.
Right.
And whether it had anything to do with Schuler or not, it did. And it took Tennessee to where, well, we all know at that time, anybody that lived it, saw it, was around it. Tennessee and Florida were the two best programs in that in the SEC. That game was the game, and it was a game in which whoever won it was probably going to win the East, and probably going to be in good shape to play for in the version of the national title at that time. And it seemingly started around that time, and again, happenstance, coincidence, or him having something to do with it, don't know, but it certainly was the golden era. I always thought, when I can remember vividly, and it's amazing where I was when I found out that Johnny Majors was going to get fired. And I literally was in South Bend, Indiana. I was recruiting at Notre Dame, and we were going to play Penn State that weekend. Rick Meyer and was quarterback, and anyway, I remember, and I remember hearing it. I can't remember if it was a Wednesday or Thursday. I remember getting it, and then it just kind of came out. At that time, you'd read it in the paper a day or two later. And I remember thinking, Philip's going to be a really good recruiter, because that's what was his strength. And then later on, seeing stuff come out to where, look, boy, he did an outstanding job recruiting players like that.
Chris Landry of Landry Football, nice enough to take some time with us. And the question that we have for you is, selling alcohol in college football stadiums a good idea? Absolutely 21 means 21, or yes, maybe, or not really, no, terrible idea. Amanda and I will share our viewpoints. We purposefully have not shared our viewpoints. I don't know where Amanda stands.
You know what? I don't know where I stand. I think I stand in the. I think it's a bad idea. I just do. I think it's a bad idea. With the amount NFL stadiums, it's a difference. These are professional players. This is a professional team. This is sponsorships and what have you. College football stadiums, I think you're just asking for mustard bottles and golf balls. Like, I really do. I think that's the on the small end of the spectrum. I just don't think it's going to be a great idea. I feel like in the NFL, the rivalries aren't so heated. In college, it is live or die. And adding alcohol to that mix is just, it's not pretty. Doesn't go well. Does not go well.
It's fair. Honeybee Coffee, which you're drinking right now, is the official coffee of Off the Hook Sports. And why, Amanda LaFratta?
Because it's amazing. It's really good coffee. It's local. It's 5% of the best beans in the world, or the top 5%. That didn't make any sense. top 5% of the beans in the world. And it's veteran owned, and it's just good coffee. It's good coffee, and it's small business, and I am all about that.
The
It's America.
America. Hashtag America with no A. I love it, and I'm not a big coffee drinker. So for me to say that is a huge deal. And I think I had like 3 cups when we met there.
I was worried about you a little.
It's pretty jittery, pretty fired up. Big Orange Phillies, a great place to be on Sunday with their big Tennessee kickoff event. Tell us about Big Orange Phillies, Mr. Viles.
Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant. It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes, folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
This is Al's Nest Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus a complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food. We'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, where Chattanooga goes to grill.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This note just coming from ESPN. Will Anderson named the top player by Ryan McGee, who joined us at SEC Media Day. So Will Anderson named the top overall player in college football, followed by Bryce Young, 2 Alabama players. That's kind of hard to believe. Then C.J. Stroud of Ohio State. So, yeah, I think this is and I'm not knocking at all Ryan. I think this is the easiest hot take to have, to pick a defensive end and not the Heisman Trophy winner quarterback as the top player in the league, because I think he is the top player.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious he's the top player, but don't scare me like that.
Did you think something happened to him?
Well, you were like, this coming in, like breaking news, ESPN, Will Anderson, and I'm sitting here going,
breaking might have been. Do we overuse that term in the media? Maybe.
Yeah, to make people's heart stops. Yeah, you do. You do.
Yeah. Okay. So we wanted to get to the team most likely that will lose, the SEC team. By the way, take a second and go ahead and click on that subscribe button and like button so we show up on your feed more often. We would greatly appreciate that. And I think you'll like our business model. All content is free. How about that? Pretty cool. All right. So out of the week 1 games, the SEC, Amanda, that's what we wanted to go over and determine which SEC team is the most likely to get bounced in week 1. Now, typically that's a game in which you would either schedule a patsy, a very easy game, or one of those regional recruiting games, or, as Alabama has done over the past couple of years, a really high-profile game to enhance your program as if they need it. But ultimately, those are the 3 things that typically you do. So those are the games, and they're all going to kind of fall into that category, I believe. But what are your thoughts early on when we look at that schedule of the week one before coming up? We get to the author of Freezing Cold Takes Exposed. It will be a great conversation. But when we look at the initial first week, what is your take? What game stands out to you?
I mean, you have a lot of games out here that stand out, and really
on SEC.
Right. Well, what kills me is that there are people who, will make these, I don't know, these like preseason, possible,
upset alert.
Yes, upset alert. And I'm like, but is it really an upset? Because we haven't seen anyone play yet. We haven't seen anybody play. No. So is it really technically an upset, or is it just, hey, the media thought these people were the greatest. They ended up not being the greatest?
Maybe not. Let's take a look at them. So week 0, a 10:30 game, Vanderbilt travels to Hawaii. It's quite a trip, I'm told. Vanderbilt is 6.5-point favorite. That seems like it could be an upset.
But is that really, do I think Vanderbilt's going to win that game? I don't know. I doubt it. But is that really an upset?
It's like a long trip to be distracted. They're going to go out there on like a Thursday before the game. I don't like that at all. So
I was not a big fan of Hawaii. Just FYI, didn't like it.
You're not a fan of Hawaii? I've never been. I've heard it's expensive. Ball State, of course, at Tennessee. We'll save that for last. La Tech at Mizzou. Missouri is a 19.5-point favorite. Hopefully, they get beat and they can go ahead and just kick Mizzou out of the conference and be done with them.
No, I think if I were, do you want to do bets right now? Like, do you want to do like spreads and all that stuff? Like, do you want me to go ahead and give you a?
Give me a breakdown.
All right. So the Vanderbilt Hawaii game, I would take Hawaii in that on that. Like
I would
spread. Yeah, I would
I'll
take
tell you who I would take, but I'm not very good at picking games, and I'll be the first to tell you that. But that's who I would take too.
I would take Hawaii with the spread. I mean, I just would with the 4.5 points. It's at Hawaii. You're playing Vanderbilt. It's not. I just don't see it happening for Vandy, to be honest.
Got no issues with that.
If they won, they'd squeak it out by a field goal. You're still 1.5 points up. So
okay.
The next one, Mizzou versus who?
La Tech. That's at Mizzou. Mizzou's a 19.5-point favorite with Elijah Drinkwitz, who's just insane.
Still against La Tech, I think I would take Mizzou with the 19 points. I'd roll with that.
Okay, so I want to come back to Tennessee and see where you stand on that. Sam Houston at Texas A&M. I haven't seen, we'll probably won't see a line on that because that's a Division II. So I don't know where that stands, but Texas A&M is going to beat Sam Houston. And then the headliner, of course, is Oregon at Georgia, which just sounds weird to even look at and think about. But Georgia's a 17.5-point favorite. And I know that's a cross-country trip, and I know that's Georgia, and they're a national champion. I get all that, but Oregon's the number 11 team in the nation. 17.5 seems like a lot of points to me.
That is a lot of points. So it's at Georgia, so it's really 14.5 because you get the 3 points for, home field advantage. However, I would go with Oregon. I understand that people are saying
to cover or win.
To cover. I wouldn't go with them to win, but to cover 17.5-point spread, I'd go with Oregon just because Oregon's offense is never anything to mess with. They're small guys, but they're very fast guys for the most part. And it's very high tempo or up tempo offense. So I would go with Oregon. And people forget that even though maybe Georgia is a type of rebuilding team that currently Alabama is, there's not another Alabama out there. Georgia is not Alabama 2.0. They're Georgia still, and we haven't seen them really rebuild a complete defense after losing nearly everyone. So I would go with Oregon to cover the spread.
Cincinnati at Arkansas. Arkansas 7-point favorite. Cincinnati loses a lot. I mean, there seems to be this mindset that they're just going to be a national title contender and playoff contender forever now. They lose a lot. But Arkansas is a running team. I don't see an upset here at all as far as a win. And I frankly am just going to defer to you because I don't feel good about the number. I think Vegas did a really good job of picking it at 7. If I feel confused by it, then they did a really good job, in my opinion.
If Arkansas is going to be everything that people think they're going to be, then I would take Arkansas, -7. I don't know how great they're going to be, but I know Cincinnati's defense is going to have a really hard time with Arkansas's quarterback. I mean, they just are. So I would take Arkansas -7.
I probably would if you absolutely made me pick. I think KJ Jefferson is really, really good as well, the Arkansas quarterback you were referencing. But at the end of the day, I mean, that just seems that's the one probably on the entire schedule that I would just absolutely stay away from if I were a gambler. But I'm not, so I don't worry about it. Troy at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 22.5-point favorite. I think Ole Miss covers.
Are they going to punt?
Yeah, if so, they'll have to go down to the nearest keg party and get a punter. As Lane Kiffin said, and this is another number I wouldn't play, and it's not because of Troy. It's because Ole Miss has so many transfers. Their team chemistry could be A+, it could be F-. I've no idea what the culture is like there.
It's not looking great. I'm not gonna lie. At least from reading Lane Kiffin's body language, it doesn't look, unless he's pulling like a Saban. I don't trust this team. I really don't. Now Troy. If it were a normal, if we were opening and it was a Hugh Freeze Ole Miss, then I would say take Ole Miss. That would be my opinion. And I lean towards taking Ole Miss, but you never know. So it makes me nervous to say I'd stay away from it. I just would.
Fair. Utah at Florida, a 2.5-point favorite. I could very easily see the Utes win this. It wouldn't stun me at all.
How is Utah ranked? 8th?
They're 7th.
Maybe.
Yeah, they're 7th.
And Florida's a favorite?
Yeah, at home.
No, I think we're really going to see one of two things. Either Florida wins barely and they crack the top 25 and the rest of their season they're just trounced on, or Utah smokes them and we see how bad Florida really is, because I just don't see Florida having it this year. I'm not going to lie. I don't see it. I do not see it.
You can see how hot a game is by looking at ESPN because they want to tie in their StubHub deal. And you can see how hot a game is. So if you want to go to the Mercer at Auburn game, you can go for just $14. But I would not watch them play if they were in my backyard. So Elon I'm just going to move past it. I hope Mercer wins. I think that would be awesome. Elon at Vanderbilt.
How is Vanderbilt playing in Hawaii and Elon?
Oh, that would be that would be difficult for them to do. So that would be week 2. So sorry.
Okay, I was about to say there's not that's not a thing.
Yeah.
What about Alabama, Utah State?
Well, no. Alabama, Utah State, but
it's not an upset alert. I understand.
I got 2 of Vanderbilt. So Utah State at Alabama. Alabama is a 38.5-point favorite. I think they cover. Stop me if you disagree on these because we have to get to our next guest, which is going to be really good. Memphis at Mississippi State. Mississippi State 16.5-point favorite. Don't have a good feel.
I would take Memphis with those points, and I would take Utah State with those points at Alabama.
Then Georgia State at South Carolina. Georgia State is a 13.5-point dog. I like South Carolina.
Is that the same Georgia State that beat Tennessee? Just a question. A couple years ago?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not the same well, who knows?
Obviously.
Who knows? There's 28-year-olds playing college football now because of COVID. It's so bizarre. When I write, I don't know whether to refer to somebody as a redshirt senior, a super senior. It is very, very confusing.
It's very odd.
In the end, if you absolutely had to cross one of those games off of your betting line, and or you had to bet one, I'll just say what are on both ends of the spectrum, the two games you feel the strongest about? I would say this. Mine would absolutely stay away from several games, but I would not touch Cincinnati and Arkansas. The one I feel best about actually would probably be, and I'm not just saying this to endear myself to Tennessee fans, but Tennessee's a 32-point favorite at home against Ball State. I got to be honest with you, I like the Balls to cover. We're going to get to ours. Go ahead. We're going to get to our special guest, and you were going to say?
So if ever there's a 30-plus point dog, I always go with the dog, and more times than not, it pays off. Even against Alabama, unless it's like a Division II, whatever. I normally go with the dog. And not that they're going to win or anything, but 32 points is still 32 points. It's a lot to cover, especially with Tennessee's questionable, secondary and what have you. It's a lot to cover.
It's time to get to Fred Segal on our Off the Hook Sports hotline. It is brought to you by Viles Automotive Group. Shopping made easy. They've got selection at Viles Automotive Group right there on Callahan. You're going to love this interview with Fred. And if you don't follow him on Twitter, you certainly should. His new book is out, Freezing Cold Takes. NFL is going to be fantastic. I look forward to reading. I have the PDF copy, so I'm going to get into that. But again, Viles Automotive Group brings you the hotline with Fred, and don't forget they have service work as well. So, Fred, how are you, sir? We certainly appreciate the time.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, I'm going to go weird fanboy here. I just love your Twitter. I know. I love your Twitter feed. And can you just talk about what started that? Because what you do is you kind of call out people that make absurd, weird statements and go back and share it later on.
And thank God for that. I'm just saying thank you for that.
Yeah. Oh, you're welcome. It was like in 2015 or so, I was using Twitter, and I just wanted something as a counter to sports media people like reposting their accurate predictions along with self-congratulatory messages. And I said to myself, someone should be the person to repost the tweets and the quotes where some of the same media folks, they turned out to be completely wrong. I guess I just became that person. I didn't expect it to become big. I just wanted to do it just to be like someone who tells them, hey, you've been wrong too. But it became big. And it eventually allowed me to write my book about historic NFL predictions gone wrong, which just came out last week.
Yeah. So when did it come to your mind that this could be a book? At what point in the journey did you say, hey, this could be bigger than just me tweeting?
Well, about 3 years after doing it, I wanted to do something in longer form. Like social media is with Twitter, there's really only like room for a quote or a tweet. The book lends to more ability to tell stories, provide context into why people may have said some of the things that they said about certain famous teams and players. And there's also a lot of room to talk about things that people may not have known were said back in the day. I mean, a lot of it predates the internet. I don't know if a lot of it, but some of it predates the internet, and a lot of it predates social media. So it's a lot of information and historical commentary about other famous teams and famous players, like the 49ers, the 89 49ers, like with Montana and Steve Young, get the Cowboys from the past with Jimmy Jones and Jerry Johnson. Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson, like from when they had their dynasty.
So what is the coldest, I guess, take that you've ever seen and like have gone back and been like, look at this idiot, basically? I
mean, there's one guy who said the internet. One guy wrote a whole article on the internet. It just wasn't going to be anything big. It's another phase type thing. And it was in Newsweek, and I posted that a long time ago. Or I post it sometimes every so often. I mean, if you're talking about anything, not even related to sports, then that would be it. In my book, in the first chapter, it talks about how there was just a whole lot of people who said that Bill Belichick, they trashed Patriots for hiring Belichick. They'll regret hiring Bill Belichick. And, how the Jets were better off when Belichick left the Jets. He was the coach of the Jets for like one day. He quit. And then went to the Patriots. So that would be probably the biggest one I've seen probably in sports or football. There's a lot of others in other sports, which I chose to just do football for this one and stick to one sport, but I could have included so many from so many other sports. Yeah.
I would imagine there's more books coming out then, right?
Hopefully. I'd like to do another one. So if I got another publishing deal, I would do it. I hope to do one for a lot of sports. College football would be a good one too. It would just be hard to choose. I have max word requirement. College football, there's so many. It's like, what do you choose from?
Yeah. So what did you do before this? Like obviously I don't think you went to, college going, okay, I'm going to write a book about freezing cold takes.
No, there was no Twitter when I went to college. When I was an attorney, I have an attorney background. I did it for 8 years before I quit, like 4 years ago. So I used to do that. I went to college in law school, and then I went to become an attorney. I was doing it for 8 years, and I didn't really like it that much. I didn't really like it at all. So after a while, I just quit. I was working on this, so I was able to do stuff with this, and then do other things with social media to make money that are unrelated to sports, just odd jobs here and there, and then just decided to do the book too. So, it's a hustle, a huge hustle when it comes to just social media. And it's not as lucrative as it was when I was an attorney, but, it's much better for me.
Yeah.
Absolute best guest ever says I was attorney and I don't like it, so I just quit.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't one day, right?
Oh, I imagine there was some pretty serious.
There's a lot of thought about it, serious thought. That went into it. If it was like one day I decided to quit, it would have been way before 8 years.
Fair. Please hit that subscribe button, like us, so we can show up on your YouTube feed. You had one about Reggie White that people kind of forget a little bit. I don't know if it's because Deion Sanders maybe was the first big free agent, but Reggie White was a monster. That was a monster move going from the Eagles to the Packers. That was huge.
Reggie White was the first big free agent. He was the first big free agent. Deion Sanders came the year after.
Right.
Reggie White, when Reggie White was a free agent, that was the first year of unrestricted free agency. And Reggie White had a big thing to do with it because he was the named player in the lawsuit with about a bunch of other players that were against the NFL about free agency and how it was like essentially illegal. How it was illegal that there was no free agency. How players were stuck to the team that they were signed to or drafted by unless the team decided to get rid of them. And the first year Reggie White became a free agent, there was a bunch of other free agents, but he was the big free agent. He went on this tour of about 8 to 12 teams.
I remember that.
Yeah, and unlike college football, at least till now, but unlike college football, he was allowed to discuss all the stuff he got from each team. It wasn't in secret. So he was getting all this. He was getting all these his wife was getting main coach. He's getting all these lavish gifts. And when free agency started, nobody thought that teams like Green Bay or Buffalo or Pittsburgh would be able to sustain a team anymore because free agents would never choose them because they're small market teams, cold places. And Reggie Wright debunked that right away.
Wow.
And in that chapter, I wrote the chapter about the Packers in the 90s. It includes like stuff like when Mike Holmgren was hired and they traded for Brett Favre. But Reggie White, he got a contract, and I think it was like 4 years, $19 million, which is it was obscene back then. I mean, like obscene. People thought that was an obscene amount of money to pay one player. Now it's like small potatoes now, but nobody thought it was worth it, and there was a lot of criticism for it. But Reggie White turned out to be plenty worth it. He was he was so good, and he was 33 years old when he signed with it. He was so good for the Packers. It was just like he helped them get their Super Bowl.
So have you had anybody that you've called out, like in your book or on Twitter or what have you? Have you had any of these like major people in sports that have come back and been like, thanks, man, like appreciate you calling me out on this, or any backlash?
Like, are you talking about sarcastically or
Yes, yes.
I'm actually kind of wondering too, Fred, if anybody's been serious, like, hey, dude, back off me.
I've had that happen when people get like they feel like the harassment gets too much. I've had that happen, and I'll undo it if they're real serious about it. I'm not here to mess with anyone's lives. Nobody's been fired for it. So, but they get mad, like mostly on Twitter, like the public, they'll like quote tweet me or tag me and say I'm a loser or something like that, or some sort of ad hominem attack, like I have nothing better to do with my life, things along those lines. But they never look good. It happened a lot more when I first started the feed than it does now. But I think what they don't like the most, at least publicly, is when any journalist says something that's predictive or provocative. I'll get tagged like 50 times under it the moment that they say it.
Yeah, so you don't even have to work as hard for it.
No, not anymore. Everybody sends me all the stuff. But they also send me stuff like 75% of the time I wouldn't use it. And you know, it's like or it's repetitive. It's something I've already seen, or like 25 people have already showed me like 5 minutes prior to. So I still have to navigate through all that. But it's also a lot of premature. Fans like to do premature stuff. For instance, like you talk about Tennessee football. After Tennessee, I think was it the COVID year? No, yeah. It was 2019, maybe. Right. What, Tennessee won like 7 in a row and won the bowl game. And that was when I was getting all these tweets sent to me to post about like Pruitt. Like the Pruitt detractors, I was getting sent tweets of the Pruitt detractors, like that I should post them. But I didn't think I was not ready yet to do that, because you know, like he had a good ending to one season, but it wasn't enough to say like that he was, and it turned out to be right. So like stuff like that, I get a lot of that, fans who do that. Like if Tennessee comes out and plays great the first 2 games, I'll get a lot of people sending to me about how the new coach was a great hire. And they'll do it. Teams will do it with recruiting too. So it's a lot of that. Like you know, Oklahoma signs a 5-star recruit. The entire hire of Brent Venables was completely validated because of that. Per Oklahoma fan.
You get a lot of Oklahoma pushback as well, so we understand that.
Yeah. No, I get a lot of pushback from Tennessee, a lot, because I went to Florida. Everyone knows I'm a Florida guy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But I wouldn't do that. Like with my feet, it serves no purpose to like not post certain teams because of, I don't like their team. It doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't do anything. I want the reaction, no matter who it is. But I do get a lot of that from Tennessee fans. They really think I'm really anti-Tennessee.
Go ahead.
If Tennessee football has given me good stuff over the years, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know what else to say.
It's given everyone good stuff over the years. Let's not lie.
I just want to say, if there's a red hot take, that very same season you're talking about, Tennessee opened with a loss to Georgia State, and I wrote that Tennessee at the time should just fire Jeremy Pruitt and replace him with the athletic director Philip Fulmer.
Oh yeah, I don't know how that would have gone either.
No, it wouldn't have gone well, but it would have been slightly better. Was my
right.
And everybody made fun of me. You just want takes. And honest to goodness, Fred, I really believe that.
Well, they probably sent that to me after he won 7 in a row in 20.
Yeah, I bet they did.
Yeah. Right. It was just too early that time because, like, it's still, you needed more than that. But it's recruiting too. Like, if you get a good recruit, it's automatic. Like, that validates, and I know that doesn't always ring true. So, and especially because it's like the recruiting class. It's not just like one recruit. But yeah, no, college football, that happens a lot. And it happens the first 2 weeks of the season. It'll happen in the NFL. So I have to wade through all that and decide which ones to post and when. Because if I do post, people make fun of me if it turns out that it wasn't necessarily the right time to post it. They'll come back and post that. So, I'm on myself too.
Fred, how do people get the book? It's everywhere, but I'm sure that there is a nice central location, like, I don't know, Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon. You can get it right at Amazon, Freezing Cold Takes NFL, or anywhere else books are sold, and online. And go to my Twitter account, @Old Takes Exposed. There's a link there to the book. And if you like NFL history, you'll love the book. I'm pretty sure it's an easy read. It's not one of those things that you have to navigate through and stop and think of what the hell's going on. Real quick read. Yeah.
Fred, great stuff. I'm going to read the book. I've got the PDF hard copy of it, and really appreciate the time, man.
Great, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
My take at the time, and I got ripped by a Nashville radio show. Ron Slay is on that show now, but he wasn't at the time. But I got ripped because I wrote that column, and here was my contention. That Tennessee at the time, be sure and hit subscribe and like so we show up on your YouTube feed. But, Amanda, my contention at the time was you have Philip Fulmer who could step in and be an interim head coach, get things on solid ground, get rid of Jeremy Pruitt. And honestly, it was because I'd heard some of the rumors about the recruiting stuff. But I didn't include that in the column because I didn't have that fact-based enough. I didn't even include it. I just said based off Georgia State. This is not year one. Okay, I can understand that type of loss in year one. But I said at the time, and people thought I was just trying to get clickbait. I wasn't. I thought it would solve a bunch of things. Philip Fulmer steps in as the coach, and then he exits stage left because you don't want to coach as an AD, overlooking the next coach. I thought it would have set Tennessee up for the next coach better than they were had they gone through the season and 2 more seasons with Jeremy Pruitt. I still stand by that. They should have fired him the day after the Georgia State game.
Well, maybe fired him the day after, but putting Philip Fulmer up there would have been a huge mistake, considering that would divide your fan base even more because he would exit stage left when they hired somebody else, and then half the people would be mad about it, going, oh, the Big Orange Pumpkin should have another shot at coaching, and then the other half people would be like, why is he back?
Okay, right. So let's say he puts the band back together, and you have Philip Fulmer, you have John Chavis, who I think was coaching a middle school team at the time. So you bring him back. Maybe you talk David Cutcliffe into coming back for one last run. So you put the band back together. But the worst case scenario, the Hiroshima scenario, is that Philip Fulmer does go on to win 8, 9, or 10 games that season. And then it's difficult to make the transition. I don't think Philip wanted to coach at that point. But you're right. It was time for the program to move beyond Phillip. No offense, he brought a lot to Tennessee's program, but it was time. It was time before he was even named AD to move on. Okay, so you and I are on the same page there. But given the circumstance of that Sunday after the Georgia State game, I'm going to stand by that. Zulbeer, I'm not saying it's the best idea. I'm saying it's the best available idea on that Sunday, because I didn't think that Jeremy Pruitt should be allowed back in the facility.
I don't think Philip Fulmer would have relinquished the clutches after that. I think he would have just.
You're probably.
They would have had to like get a tow truck in there and tow him out of Neyland Stadium.
You're probably right, and keep in mind that he's about 22 games away from Neyland's all-time win record. So you would be looking at, and I know he wants that record. So you'd be looking at probably 3 more seasons to get to that record.
Yeah.
That would be what I said was the Hiroshima. That's what you don't want, because you're just not going to put together sustained runs like that. Zool Beer Company is the official craft beer of Off the Hook Sports. Why, Amanda? Because it is award-winning worldwide, which is not easy to say.
No, and it's the best. Like, it's the best beer out there, and I'm not saying that because I'm partial to it. I love Zool. I love the atmosphere. I love the people. Yes, I work there not very often, but I do. But I'm not saying that just because of who they, of my relationship. I did not like beer before I started working there. Didn't like it.
Tells y'all need to know. So check out Zool Beer Company, zoolbeer.com. And Jason had a good question. Florida's first 3 are Utah, Kentucky, South Florida. How many losses in those 3 heading into the Tennessee game?
2.
It's juicy. Tease it.
I go 2.
Tease it through the break.
Okay.
That's
bad.
a good one.
I did not
tease. Might go 2 with you. If they come to Neyland Stadium, though, 1 and 2, that's a pretty hungry Florida team. I think Tennessee would rather them be 2-1.
That's a done Florida team. That ain't hungry. You lost to Kentucky straight off the bat. No, you done.
2 minutes. Back after this. Like and subscribe. Off the Hook Sports.
Folks, Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Rain. I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ottawa. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do, and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
So let's get to Jason's question. I remind you to like and subscribe. Jason asking, Florida's first 3 are Utah, Kentucky, South Florida. How many losses in those 3 heading into the Tennessee game? So Kentucky's probably going to be a favorite, I think. Utah is one of the top 10 teams in the nation, according to the AP poll. They could very well be 1-2 getting into that game in Neyland Stadium.
Yeah, I think they will be. I think they'll be 1-2. And I think at that point, if you get beat by Kentucky, if you are 0-2 and you're Florida at the beginning of the season, 0-2, you're going to win against, you said UCF. Is that the next one?
No, they've got Utah. They host Utah. They
Right.
host Kentucky. And then they host South Florida, which
South
ironically
Florida.
is in mid-Florida. But anyway.
So USF. So if you have
It's in Orlando. But anyway. Makes it, or Tampa. But anyway.
Right. So if you have them, that's your third game. Florida, I mean, they would have to really just legitimately crumble upon the field to not win that game. That would be a real hard. It'd be harder for them to lose than it would for them to win against USF. However, going to Neyland Stadium at, 1-2, you're defeated. If you're Florida, you're defeated at that point. Like you're, and I hate it for them because they've scheduled. Well, who knew Utah was going to be any good? Let's be honest. No one knew that.
Does that go way back to an Urban Meyer thing? Surely not.
I think that goes to
the schedule is 10 and 12 years in advance.
No, not always.
Well,
not always.
No, I'm not saying always. It's changed in the past 10 years. But
yeah,
about 10 years ago, they would schedule them out 10, 12 years in advance, which seems really stupid to me. But maybe, does this go all the way back to Urban Meyer?
Could be. Didn't he have ties to Utah?
Head coach at Utah, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it could have been that. But
it's got to be. I mean, it's just a bizarre game. Otherwise.
I mean, Alabama's playing Utah State. Like, where does that come from?
Well, I can see that one because it's a money game, I guess. But Utah, isn't Alabama paying Utah State? Or is that surely they're paying? I think the Utah's. Anyway. Okay, if you're Tennessee, what do you want Florida coming in as? Let me ask you that. What's the best Gator team? Do you want them beat down? Do you want them flying high so you can catch them, maybe feeling too good about themselves? What record gives Tennessee the best opportunity to beat Florida at home? Is it
1-2?
So they're beat down. You think being beat down mentally?
Yeah, they're not going to come back from that. I mean, they're just not. You lose to Kentucky. Now, what you don't want them to be is 2-1. That's what you don't want them to be. You don't want them to drop Utah and then beat Kentucky and then beat USF coming into Neyland Stadium. That's, I think, your biggest, that's the worst situation possible for Tennessee.
Because you've been humbled somewhat in month one, but hope's still alive.
Not month one, but week one.
Well, I'm saying whether it's Kentucky or not. So you've been whether it's Kentucky, whether it's Utah, whoever, you've been humbled at 2-1. You've been humbled, but there's still a lot to play for. I can tell that.
I mean, you've been humbled. The Utah game, them dropping that, I feel like it's expected right now, even though they're a favorite, which I don't understand that, but that's fine. It's expected if you just look at the rankings. That's an expected loss. The Kentucky one, I think, is an up in the air kind of thing. But if they beat Kentucky and they beat USF, they're on a roll. So say they beat Utah and then they lose to Kentucky, there's still that defeat. If Kentucky beats you, and I know they're a better Kentucky team than they've been in a long time, but if Kentucky beats you, I feel like that's just a kick in the pants almost if you're Florida.
I'm still in that. The mattress kick in the mattress plays. So see, it's gender equal. The mattress place, 22 years on Chapman Highway, Marine Corps veteran owned, A+ accredited member of the Better Business Bureau, over 225 5-star reviews on Google. That is the mattress place. So you will love them. And They're just a couple of miles away from Henley Street. They're right downtown. It's very easy, very convenient. No gimmicks, just 30 to 70% off every day. Amanda LaFratta resetting today's tough question. We want to encourage people to like and subscribe so that we show up on their YouTube feed more often. But today's tough question is about alcohol. So Bryant-Denny, that's Alabama's home stadium for those that don't know, has up and said they're going to serve alcohol. Now, it has to cross one final legal threshold, but I remember when Tennessee introduced alcohol, it was the same one, and it was like the last one was no big deal. They pretty much decided to do it, so it's going to happen. But curious what you think about alcohol in stadiums, Amanda, because I can tell you that most of my experiences in stadiums have been completely alcohol free because I've been working. So I see it maybe from a different perspective as a lot of people, but most of yours has been as a fan at the game. So I'm curious how you see it and what you've seen.
So I feel, and I've been to games where alcohol has been involved.
Yes.
I've been to games where alcohol has not been involved. I feel like I enjoy the game more when it's not involved. And there's, as everybody knows, we know the effects of alcohol. Once you have a few drinks, if you know, whether you get drunk or not, stuff flows out a lot quicker, and there's like a filter that it does not pass through. So a lot of the fights and a lot of the problems when it comes to fans at games, alcohol is almost like 95% of it is they're involved some way. Alcohol is involved in these fights or these conflicts or what have you. I don't think it's a good idea. I just don't think it's a good idea, especially not with the rivalries the way that they are. Could you imagine? I mean, imagine for a second, and it's happening, so you don't even have to imagine. I haven't been there, but Tennessee, Florida. You want these drunk Florida fans to come.
Think of, may I interrupt, the Jabbar Gaffney no catch in the end zone where he had it for an instant. I think you and I've talked about it. It's a little bit before your time, but I can't imagine the response if alcohol was involved. Do you think the Lane Kiffin game last year, this was at the very, like there were like 8 seconds left. Sorry to interrupt, Amanda, but that's
you're
one
fine.
that comes to mind where people would have absolutely thrown huge bags of trash on the field.
Yeah, and I've been to, Neyland Stadium in opposing fan gear, and I've had stuff thrown at me. Nobody hit me, but they threw it at me. And that was in the student section, which is, whatever. But anywho, that was when alcohol was not, like you couldn't purchase alcohol in the stadium. So the idea of bringing it in with the rivalries as heated as they are, and not just Tennessee, not just Alabama, just any team in college football, except for up north. When you go up there, you just freeze. So you need alcohol just to make sure the blood pumps through the veins,
Fair.
to be honest. However, down here where football it just means more to people, is a bad idea. It's just not gonna, alcohol is involved in tailgating. Games are for soaking up that alcohol with the hot dogs or the popcorn or whatever, what have you, drinking the water and sobering up before you got to drive home. Having alcohol in a game is just going to lead to it's going to lead to a lot of bad decisions.
Well, I think we've seen some of it already with the Lane Kiffin game and last year. And I think we saw some of it with the Diamond Balls as people were throwing trash out onto the field. Yeah, as Amanda knows all too well, because I'll send her messages via Twitter or Facebook at 2 a.m. because I have insomnia. But I'm looking at, somebody posted online that they have Tennessee, Florida tickets for sale, 4 tickets. So the last time I went to a Tennessee game as a fan was during the Derek Dooley era, if you want to call it an era, when I was working for ESPN, and that was I could call and they were like, "How many tickets do you need? Would you like a whole section?" Yes, I would like a whole section.
A whole section.
I mean, seriously, tickets were that easy to come by. So I'm thinking to myself, my son is a sports fan, but my son has never seen Tennessee be any good. Okay, so he doesn't get it. So whether or not they win or lose the Florida game, I was going to take him just to see the electricity. And then I'm thinking to myself, is it worth spending all of that money? Because that's what you ultimately have to ask yourself. I don't mind spending all of that money if the Hooker family shows up and sees Tennessee get beat. I don't mind. The money part of it wouldn't affect me. I'm not going to be one of those people that walk outside the stadium. I dropped $500 for this. No, that doesn't bother me. What would bother me is some of the things that I saw with the Derek Dooley era, and that was we accidentally sat right next to the student section, and I didn't need to see two students. I guess this is a new move right up there with butt chugging, but the double vomit move. That's a move I haven't seen before. I guess that's something the kids like to do together. So I thought about that and I started researching because I knew we were talking about this today. I started researching where exactly those seats were. So that mattered. I want to be close to the student section if I'm taking my kids, and they're teenagers. They're not going to see anything. But yeah, I mean, college football doesn't need to be the NFL. And Amanda, I know I'm pro mega conference. I'm pro growing the game. I want to make the schedule look more like the NFL. But I recall going to a Cowboys-Titans game once and sitting in the stands as a fan. And this was the Albert Haynesworth scraped his cleat across the Cowboys player's face. I remember the response. We didn't know what happened on the field. It's for social media, and we didn't see the replay because they didn't air it because it was in the Titans stadium. And I just remember the response, though, being every F-bomb imaginable, every GD imaginable, and thinking, I'm so glad that I don't have, I think they would have been like 8 and 6 at the time. I'm so glad I don't have my 8 and 6-year-old here. And I heard a lot of that about the Music City Bowl a few years back, that there was a really bad experience there. So if I were the king of college football, I would probably say, or the king of college athletics, I would say you don't need it. It's just a money grab in the end.
That's exactly the thing. And that's what we've been talking about with, the conference alignment, the USC and UCLA. It's people who are making these decisions look at it financially and say, yeah, this is a great idea, but they're not in real time. Like they're not in that moment where you have, your kid there and you're seeing all kinds of crazy whatever. Everyone knows that bowl games and stuff like that, people get drunk, but most of the time during bowl games, you're not playing a rivalry. Like it's just not happening. And you're spending a bunch of money to go to a place that is, neutral field or what have you. So that experience is a different one. Having this every single home game, it's going to get to the point where people aren't going to want to bring their kids. I mean, it's already to that point because of, how passionate the fans get at some of these games. And I mean, I've been to Neyland Stadium multiple times, and I said the last time I went that I would never go back just because of the way, and I'm not saying it's just Tennessee. It's like that through the Southeast. It's just the way that other fans are treated. It's just, that's how it is. I mean, and it's gotten to that point. So adding alcohol to that mix is a terrible idea. It's a horrible idea.
Yeah, and you use the term passion, I think, very kindly.
Yes, I did.
It is not you got to beat Florida oftentimes that I think brings out the worst in people. I think it is the fact that you're overindulging, over imbibing. And I think that the passion, if you want to be passionate about your team, I get that. You should be. And that's why we're here. But It doesn't mean you have to throw stuff on the field. It doesn't mean you have to chug a half a bottle of bourbon. And again, I've been that guy. So maybe I'm Clint Eastwood, get off my lawn now. Okay. So, before
I am as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been that guy. I'm just saying I don't think it's necessary. Listen, if you want, kind of the old way worked. If you wanted to sneak it in, if you want to potentially break the rules and you got busted, you got thrown out, so you couldn't get in trouble. I still remember getting tickets to a game, and we sat down, and it was a friend of mine's parents' tickets. So they knew everybody in the section, and we got their tickets. This is the last time we got their tickets because we started off with popcorn because it was the cheapest because we had spent all our money on booze. And then we pour the bourbon into the Diet Coke, and you wanted to make it strong, right? Because you don't want to have to buy a bunch of Cokes. Goodness, that's be crazy.
Like $5 a pop.
Yeah, and I remember spilling popcorn on this lady, and she just turns, and it's because I also had to call it a day, like the middle of the third quarter. And I remember the lady said, I said, ma'am, I'm so sorry that we spilled that popcorn on you. And she goes, well, thank goodness it wasn't that drink. I'd have gotten a DUI on the way home. It's like, that was the last time we ever got tickets from that.
And you know what? This also, I'm going to go on a tiny, 30-second rant. But as a college student, you should have to sneak the alcohol in. That's a rite of passage. That's not fair to give them alcohol. Just go ahead and take your fake ID or whatever and buy the alcohol. That's not fair. You should have to sneak it in like the rest of us. We all had to do it. You should have to put the airplane bottles in your boots and kneel down or go to the bathroom to pour it in your drink.
Amen.
You should have to do it. It's a rite of passage.
Pedigo Chattanooga, locally owned store where you'll be treated like family, is the region's foremost electric bike experts. They put their hearts into helping you find the perfect electric bike and get the most out of it for many years to come. Pedigo Chattanooga, again, Pedigo Chattanooga. Jason with another comment. South Florida USF might be tougher than you think if they lose the first two. School usually has a ton of speed. I'm not going to pretend to be a USF expert at all. But I will say that, yes, any team that is in Florida probably has speed. And I think that Florida is beatable for a number of different reasons. Could they come to Neyland Stadium at 0-3? That would really surprise me.
I don't see that happening. And I know USF has a ton of speed and what I get all of that. But still, they're not on the same level as Florida, even a depleted Florida. They're just not.
No, I agree. It is time for This Day in Sports History. What is going on? Easy for me to say. This Day in Sports History is brought to you by our friends at Bassey Lawn and Garden. Again, Bassey Lawn and Garden. Why are you shaking your head at me, man?
No message board bingo?
Oh, no, we got message board bingo. Okay, message board bingo is now. I got all messages. And it's brought to you by Bassey Lawn and Garden. Bassey Lawn and Garden, man alive. It's worth the drive there in beautiful Cleveland. Hit it, Amanda. Message board bingo. Here we go.
I'm getting used to the music. Okay, so what would change if the NCAA and NFL, that's the topic, makes no sense, used a ball that is 3/4 or even half the size? Would the ball travel farther? I assume so. On passes and kicks, could be interesting if so. More circus catches? How about less fumbles? Will they even measure hand size at the combine? The last time I threw a full-size college ball, I couldn't help wondering why the size was chosen. Assuming any of that is true, I wonder why the CFL or any other smaller league hasn't tried that.
They have, it's called Little League. I don't know. That could be any number. That's the dumbest post I've ever heard in my life.
That's why I chose it.
So I'll
give you a hint.
Okay, I don't mean this to sound at all sexist, but you want a women's football because they have a smaller football in basketball, basically.
This seems like a small person.
Seems like a small person.
It does. I'm just saying, it seems like at one point.
Okay.
They were.
What's the furthest you think I could ever throw a football back in the day?
Would you stop? You've told me a billion times.
Okay. I don't know who this is. Can I have a hint?
Yes, you can. They are in the SEC, and when there's a kickoff, they're the dumbest fan base you've ever seen in your life.
Auburn. Missouri.
No. It's Georgia.
Oh, when there's a kickoff, I didn't get.
Yes.
Oh,
it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
I like it.
Why?
I don't know. I like all the pre-games. Like I was the one guy who would sit there at his computer watching the pre-games.
No, but every time they kick off, they bark like dogs. Seriously? You think that's?
I thought it, but you're not alone because I've asked
So
other
stupid.
SEC fans the most annoying, and everybody says Georgia.
Yeah, because it's dumb. Why are you barking like a dog?
The gentleman at the gym that I work out at, and we were talking about how we work with current players, and we might start working with Georgia players. Who knows? Well, he was a coach for a high school coach in Georgia. Boy, he was irate. You're not gonna be able to pay players. They ain't gonna say anything about that. The GSSAA or whatever it is. My retort, of course, should have been, "You're right. I have no intention of doing that." But it was like, well, we'll see. And kind of thought about making a couple of phone calls. But a lot of them have spring sports. They would be ineligible. So we would want to pay those guys. Just telling you.
Okay. That's fun.
Maybe I get motivated by spite. All right.
That was a
Message
fun
before
little
we go.
detour.
Give me it wasn't a detour. All right, give me a round.
All right. I never thought I'd see the day that football coach at Kentucky can throw shade at our program. It's embarrassing. You can agree or disagree with what he's actually saying. The fact is, he's throwing shade.
I want to say a Kentucky basketball fan, but I'm going to say that would work, though, after the recent debate.
That would work.
I'm going to say Florida.
No, it's South Carolina.
I'm over to
Apparently, Stoops was talking about Beamer's like video of in sunglasses and whatever. Stoops is just making enemies everywhere.
Yeah, I thought about cheating last night, but I didn't. And looking at message board, bingo. So it's obvious I haven't, because had I would be much better. All right,
I was about to say, like, this is not marriage counseling. I don't know what we're doing right now.
All right, here we go. What do you got?
All right. While I may not like hearing individual players get hurt, I hope the team, Ohio State, suffers a bunch more injuries. Lovely Big Ten fans.
I think Michigan would have more respect. So I'm going to go with Penn State.
No, it's Michigan. They have no respect. It's the coldness. It gets straight to their hearts. It just freezes them right into.
It is this day in sports history, and it is now, as usual, I went 0 for 3. That's a real stunner.
This day in sports history, putting things in perspective, exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker.
You're so old. When you were a kid, rainbows were black and white.
And Amanda LaFratta.
New kids on the block just called. They wanted you as a backup dancer.
Thank you, Gran Torino, for the bump back in this day in sports history. Amanda, what do we got?
So I got a big one. In 2008, U.S. team Michael Phelps and then his friends wins 4 by
Phelps and the dudes.
It doesn't matter. Wins 4 by
The
4 by 1.
Amanda and Dave and Ava.
Yes.
And we would do okay. We'd get bronze.
We would. Ava would probably be the anchor. So wins. Yes, she's a pretty good swimmer. Wins 4 by 1 medley relay at the Beijing Olympics in world record. Phelps' 8th gold medal of games breaks Mark Spitz's 1972 record of 7.
Just, I remember you had to get home and watch it, and social media wasn't as prevalent back at the time, Amanda. And so you would not watch the news because it had happened. And if you wanted to find it, you could find it. But if you wanted to hide, you could get away, unlike social media nowadays. And I remember you would come home and you wouldn't watch the news. So I always watched the news, and I would just wait and watch it and watch Phelps. It's for DVR. Things have changed a little bit. By the way, I saw a camera that, or not a camera, a phone. So I'm holding my phone up, my iPhone, and you hit this little button, and like a drone comes out, a camera drone of the phone, so that it can fly around.
I saw that too. I think that's just somebody
I
like.
think that's, but I wanted to buy one. City Heating and Air Conditioning. It's been there for over.
I have another one.
Oh, okay. Give me another one.
I know we've gone a little past time, but I have another one. All right. Did I not get music? Okay, that's fine.
No,
Thank you. 1987, Muhammad Ali elected to Ring Magazine's Boxing Hall of Fame.
Wow. Yeah, it. Well, I tell you what, you want to stir up a hornet's nest? Start talking about Muhammad Ali. People.
That was terrible.
What?
Did you not mean to do that?
I don't know what I did. So if it's terrible, then it's not even.
Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee, and you just said hornet's nest. Okay.
Now there's just some people that are older than me that I was young in the radio profession at the time, and I thought of Muhammad Ali as a national treasure, and I obviously that was before my time, and there are a lot of people who do not view him as such. Okay. So it's like a June debate. If you want to open up the phone lines, that and Pete Rose, that will get you through a June. Those two I've found out. So have a fantastic day, everyone. A lot of people listening right now. If you missed any portion of the program, you can go to our YouTube page. It will be up and at them here in just a couple of minutes. We'll be here each and every weekday at 8:30 with Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. Don't forget to hit that subscribe and like and comment button and more. Have a fantastic day, everyone. This is a